In order to examine missed opportunities for persuasion, we took a short stroll through campus and found these examples of signs throughout Duke's dormitories. Not convinced? Us either. So let's hear what Professor Goldstein has to say about how we can leverage social proof more effectively.
Despite the fact that principles of persuasion seem obvious in hindsight, when people are actually trying to persuade, they often fail to utilize these seemingly simplistic principles. So, whenever the desirable behavior is the norm, when other people are doing the right thing, they're taking the action that you want people to take, it's really important to remember the power of the principle of social proof. Now the thing is, even though organizations and individuals often fail to use this principle, marketers tend to be pretty good at it, and we've certainly seen some examples of that. So we might hear that the Ford F-Series truck is the best-selling truck in America, right? I mean, what they're doing is communicating the principle of social proof, so that when somebody is uncertain about which type of car they're going to buy, if they look to the marketing slogan, then they recognize, okay, well, if that's the best-selling car in America, most people are choosing that, so I should choose that too. If you look at any time a company introduces a new product, so for example, let's say it's Arby's new Angus 3-cheese and bacon burger. Now, what do they tend to do when they're advertising this product? Well, one thing that they do, the major thing that they do, is talk about why it's so good, right? What are the benefits to the customer? What is the customer going to like about that? And that's very intuitive. It makes total sense why they would do that. But I'm going to argue that there's a missed opportunity for persuasion. Now, if you think about it, how do these products actually come to market? Does the CEO just say, slap together some mayo, some brisket? And no, that's not how decisions are made. Big decisions are made at these big companies. There's a lot of internal market research, right? There's a lot of internal testing to see whether or not an idea, a particular sandwich, let's say the 3-cheese and bacon burger, is actually something that customers are going to like. So in order to decide whether we should bring that product to the market or a totally different product to the market, they have to actually test which one is better, which one consumers like, maybe compare it to competitors' burgers. And now what's interesting about these internal test market data is that companies use them in order to make the decision of which products to actually bring to the market. But I would argue that there's a missed opportunity for influence there based on the principle of social proof. Right? In fact, not only are these data often internal test market data, but sometimes before introducing the campaign nationally, they'll go out and they'll go to a town in North Carolina and introduce the burger there and see how it does, see how people like it in comparison to other things. Now the point is that here's this herd information that you have. You know that people prefer this burger to maybe a Wendy's version of that burger. And yet that information is used to make the decision of which product to take to the market and is rarely actually communicated to the consumer. And I would call that a failed opportunity or a missed opportunity for persuasion. Now, there are a couple of times in marketing history when companies have gotten it right. If you think about the Pepsi Challenge, for example, right? Pepsi had realized that if you drink a little sip of Pepsi or Coke in a blind taste test, more people, right, the herd, actually prefers Pepsi. So Pepsi went out and said, take the Pepsi Challenge, here's what our data show. Right? But rarely have we actually seen this implemented in marketing campaigns, despite the seeming obviousness of the principle. Now, there are a couple of exceptions to this. One, just to keep in the fast food domain, Wendy's came out with new fries. Now, again, they didn't just say, all right, well, let's, the CEO didn't say, here's how we're going to make the fries. There were ideas, there was internal market research, and ultimately, they figured out that people preferred these fries to McDonald's fries in a blind taste test. And so what Wendy's did was they actually did the right thing, something very different than what we typically see. They came out with a campaign saying that roughly 56% of people preferred their fries to McDonald's. Right? That's what the herd is doing. Now, I'm not arguing that this type of campaign would make people who are McDonald's devotees, that it would make them run into a Wendy's to try the fries. And remember what I said earlier, social proof, like almost all the principles of influence, are going to be most powerful when people are uncertain of how to behave. So what that means is, if you love McDonald's fries and you've never eaten anywhere else, you're not going to be influenced by this social proof information. However, if you're a person who is unsure, you're curious, that information is probably going to push you over the edge and you're going to be more likely to try the fries. And Wendy's believes that once you try the fries, you're actually going to prefer those fries in the future. Normally, it is adaptive to follow the norms of people who are similar to you, the norms of your particular environment. It normally makes sense that if you're in a multinational company, which norms should you follow for how to behave? Well, the norms of your particular department, the people on your floor, normally following those norms is more diagnostic of what's the right behavior. And we think that people overlearn this over time, right? That they are constantly being rewarded for following the norms of similar others in similar situations, and that when they're not thinking particularly deeply, they're going to be more likely to follow a norm like this, which we call a provincial norm, right? Their particular province, their particular area or locale or context, than you would expect rationally. So one really common persuasion mistake that I tend to see is that people, even when they remember the principle of social proof, they fail to point to the right herd. And what I'm arguing here is that the right herd is the one that is similar to the audience, that shares the context of the audience. So for example, if there's an ad campaign in California or in Santa Monica to try to get Santa Monicans to recycle, and that's where I live, if I saw an ad that said 95% of Californians recycle, I think that would be a good use of the principle of social proof, that especially if I'm uncertain, I would be more likely to do it. But I don't think that that is the optimal message. Assuming, of course, that the norms were the same, and 95% of people in Santa Monica recycled, I would be much more persuaded by an ad that said 95% of people in Santa Monica recycle. And so you always have to remember, when I'm going to convey this herd information, the social proof information, what is the right herd? And hopefully, based on this discussion, I've pointed you in the right direction.
Today, you've learned what social proof is and that it is everywhere around us, visible and invisible. On a daily basis, we consciously and unconsciously look to others to guide our own behavior, particularly when we are uncertain. We tend to join herds at home, at school, and at work that continuously influence our actions. Sometimes we do so in order to fit in with the crowd, and at other times we join a herd because we may not know what to do in new social contexts. With this knowledge, you can become a more aware and effective marketer and activist for what matters most to you. Whether that means getting your suitemates to use less water in your dorm's bathroom, or even getting new clients for your company. You should feel empowered knowing that you have learned how to become more effective. That's not to say you should take advantage of others for your own gain. Rather, you should get people to do what is good or proper for the benefit of your community. People don't always do what they should